Hello everyone and welcome back to Off the Shelf Reviews. It's your hosts Ian and Gary again, and this week we are reviewing 1956 adaptation of Moby Dick, directed by James Huston and starring Gregory Peck as Captain Ahab.
I wanted to talk about Moby Dick because it's a film that I watched in my childhood, and it's a film that I recently revisited and was blown away by how fantastically the film still stands the test of time. It hasn't aged at all. It is still one of the best naval movies, and it's an adventure film that has a lot of thematics going on behind the scenes of it just being a simple Captain Ahab hunting down his whale.
It's very intense. It's a very intense movie.
It really is.
It starts off quite joyful. You know, you meet up with Ishmael and he's happily walking down to the town of Bedfordshire to sign up to be a sailor.
Some years ago, having little or no money, I thought I would sail about and see the oceans of the world. Whenever I get grim and spleenful, whenever I feel like knocking people's hats off in the street, whenever it's a damp, drizzly November in my soul, I know that it's high time to get to sea again. Choose any path you please, and 10 to 1 that carries you down to water.
And then he comes across the town where Ahab has docked.
Well, he comes across all of the whalers, and they're getting ready to go out and make a lot of money. Basically harvesting the whales that they capture for oil and all the oil products.
Bless me, whales can do anything. A whale can jump up like an earthquake and come down on you like a mountain that some have put to sea. A whale can stave in the ribs of the biggest ships, swallow whole crews, pick its teeth with the oars. Mind, lad, if God ever wanted to be a fish, he'd be a whale. Believe that, he'd be a whale.
So it's quite controversial in many ways because I'm, against whaling.
I think most people are,
but
nowadays.
This film really romanticizes that time period in American history where they were out there hunting these whales.
And so we stripped our first whale and boiled the blubber down to a fine, pure oil that would keep the lamps burning in 1,000 homes, the clocks ticking on their mantelpieces, and perhaps anoint the head of a king.
But it was
a commodity for the human race. You know, they needed to go out there and they needed to hunt these whales down, and it is quite harsh and barbaric. But obviously, this is what gives you the imagery of Moby Dick. He's like the god of the whales.
Yeah, the great white god.
The great white god. You know, he is out there and he is, killing whalers left and right. So they're trying to still make a living. And then obviously you have Ishmael. He meets up with the crew and they have their little drinking time in the tavern, which is quite funny. It kind of sucks you in. You're part of the crew now. You're going to be going out with us. Drink your drink because you may not be coming back.
You definitely get a big part of feeling like you are one of the crew when you watch the film. It is just under 2 hours long, so it is quite a long running length.
Yeah.
And the only thing I will say is that the film is a slow burner in terms of its pacing, just because it is a very tensely driven film with lots of monologues that stretch on for like 5-7 minutes at a time.
I love those. I did love those. I mean, the whole beginning sequence with Ishmael and walking out to the town, him coming to the church. I mean, that long sweeping shot of them looking at the plaques and all the different sailors and ships that have been lost to the sea. It kind of made me just... You felt like part of the crew, but it made you feel quite depressed that this was your life,
Well, there's an omen almost right at the beginning of the film where this weird kind of drunken hobo sailor delivers the prophecy. That if he basically explains to Ishmael, hey, you aware of Ahab? You're going on his ship? Yeah, see ya, because you probably ain't coming back. No. That man's crazy.
At sea one day, you'll smell land where there be no land. And on that day, Ahab will go to his grave, but he'll rise again within the hour. He will rise and beckon, and all save one shall follow. May the heavens bless you.
And so there's a lot of those foreshadowing moments throughout the film as well, which just ties into the film's language. And again, it kind of helps with the pacing because it just mentally prepares you for the next sequence that's going to come, and it just keeps adding to that tension.
The introduction of Queequeg.
Yeah.
Queequeg was a brilliant character. The first time you see him, he wanders into a room, shrunken head on a shelf, climbs into bed, and Ishmael is just like so sad. And it's to set you up so then when the ship actually sails out, those old women scared me.
They look like they turned up to a funeral.
That's it. They're the mothers and wives of the sailors going out, but they're not happy. They're afraid that
they're handing out Bibles.
Yeah, pray to God. Oh, but then when you hear Ahab, the tapping of his wooden leg, well, his ivory leg.
Yeah, for days the sailors are out at sea, and strangely enough, not a one of them has yet to see their captain.
He's wandered at night.
But at night, they can hear on the deck the peg-legged sound of Ahab lonely walking the decks and just pacing. It is quite an eerie moment. And then obviously it cuts to the next morning and they're scrubbing the decks, and you just get that moment where everyone just stops, just looks, and once that spreads throughout the ship, it just cuts to Ahab just stood,
just statue,
just staring past them all at the horizon, just looking for that whale.
He did not feel the wind or smell the salt air. He only stood staring at the horizon, with the marks of some inner crucifixion and woe deep in his face.
So the whaling scenes themselves, I mean, when they actually come across their first whale, or then when they come across the herd later on, it's just, you just felt you were in the boats with them, you know, you were feeling the harpoons flying out and striking the whales. It's harsh and it's barbaric, but like we said, this was the time. And then Ahab just deciding, I don't want this.
Stop the hunt! Pick up our boats, we're setting sail. But Captain, there's 5 big whales. You men up there, get along. I'll not sail with you, sir. Mr. Stubb, Mr. Flask, did you not see the pennant or hear my command? Yes, sir, we did. Then hear me now. Come aboard.
I want that white whale. We are chasing the white whale. And you see the crew like...
Well, there's a point where the crew or some of the first shipmates are considering mutiny, just because they start to understand the levels of insanity that Captain Ahab has reached in his quest for revenge.
He has taken us from the rich harvest we were reaping to satisfy his lust for vengeance. He is twisting that which is holy into something dark and purposeless. He is a champion of darkness. Ahab's red flag challenges the heavens.
See, now, is he insane?
I think
he's got kind of like a good heart. He wants to stop this whale, and you know.
What?
I don't know if Moby Dick is he the hero? Are we feeling for Moby Dick, or are we feeling for Ahab and the crew to strike it down?
Well, I sympathise with what happened to Ahab, because he says it early on in the film.
It's Moby Dick that tore my soul and body until they bled into each other. I'll follow him around the Horn, and around the Norway maelstrom, and around perdition's flames before I give him up.
And the only thing that he lives for is to bring down that whale.
Yeah.
And he says, you know, with his last breath, I spit it at thee. It's, you know, it's all of those poignant moments where he is insane.
Forge me new weapons that will strike deep and hold fast, but do not douse them in water. They must have a proper baptism. What say ye, all ye men? Will you give as much blood as shall be needed to temper the steel?
Gregory Peck is just intense on screen. You know, it is said that he didn't actually like his performance as Captain Ahab, but I can see a fault with it. You know, he was just ominous. He was on the screen, the scar running down his face. He's riling the men up, drink with me and cut yourself on the weapons. We're going to kill this whale.
Aye.
Aye.
But it only appears like there's only one or two other people on the ship that are aware of how Ahab has brainwashed his crew into that gold fever rush that, you're going to make a fortune if you help me bring down this whale. And so they join in the insanity.
Where are the crew of the Pequod? There is not one face I know among 30. He has snatched their souls.
And so you have Starbuck, who's pretty much pulls a gun and is ready to bring down Ahab to try and save the crew. But at the same time, he's also partially captivated by the passion of Ahab.
The thought of just bringing the whale down.
So you could lead it on to the fact that perhaps, yes, Moby Dick is the hero of the film because Moby Dick has been forced through the evil intentions, if you will, of Ahab to defend itself and literally destroy these whalers. And so, Moby Dick is the hero of the film, but it's the
story. It's the story of Ahab and Ishmael.
It is, but it's also the story of the rest of the crew trying to understand like the laws of nature in themselves as well as they question up their own actions, and even Ahab talks about whether is he the one doing this or is God instrumental in it.
You feel it? That same lightning which struck me, I now strike to this iron. Does it burn, men? Does it burn?
The imagery of this film is just breathtaking. I mean, the ship out in the ocean, the storm scenes, you've got guys running up and down the mast, and I felt it must have been really exciting back then to do all that, but at the same time so dangerous. You have the watchman who runs all the way to the top. One mistake, he's lost into the sea. And then you come to the whaling scenes themselves. I mean, the Moby Dick scenes, they might seem a bit dated. We're talking not CGI, we're homemade models of the whale taking out into the ocean, filmed, and then it sinks. So then they've got to build another one and take that out to the ocean and film that. And then that one sinks, and it's just... But it's so intense when it breaks the water and it comes smashing down, the tail's going, it's... I gotta admit, I did find the scenes with the cabin boy quite uncomfortable. You've got this small black child running around with a tambourine. From Alabama. He's singing to the crew, the Ahab leaves him in command.
Get bit.
And then you, obviously, if you know the story of Moby Dick, you know what happens to the ship, and he gets crushed by a mast. Spoilers, but it's just that one scene that just sticks in my head, but just because it's so sudden.
The whole film is narrated by Ishmael, who explains that he is, the lone survivor of this catastrophe at sea, if you will. Of this one man's determination and passion to bring down this whale. But his insight into the way that the crew's feeling, as him being an insider to the crew as well. But for me, Ishmael he is what brings the audience into the film. But as a character, he's perhaps the weakest one. But it's more about the relationships that he has with the other characters on the ship. That just starts to gel all of those scenes together, especially with his narration. That gives you the insight into the characters.
Favorite scene?
I think my favourite scenes, other than any of the Ahab monologue scenes, where he's enfueling the men to be as passionate about killing the whale.
Pledge yourselves, heart, soul, body, life and lungs, as I pledge myself. Death to Moby Dick.
It's probably the scene where Queequeg
Yeah.
is doing the bones, and he prophesizes in the bones that his time has come and he is going to die, and so he calls for the carpenter and just tells him 6 foot 7 foot coffin. I want this wood, and I also want it waterproof because I'm dying at sea. And
then he just switches off. He just sits there.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. It's just a bizarre moment, and I also like the fact that emphasizing the fact that these are whalers.
Yeah.
That they've got the Indian guy on there, the Native American guy.
Yeah.
Who's who wants to, instead of hunt the buffalo, hunt the
Hunt
whale.
whales.
You've got this other guy who's been wrestling lions, and so he then also wants to hunt the whale. So you've actually got these on-land hunters that have come to try and hunt the whales, and so it kind of takes away slightly from that barbarism of being a commercial thing to actually hunting for food or for skill as hunters from their tribes. So I actually like those characters as well. So your favourite scene, Ian?
See, he took the Queequeg one. The Queequeg one's pretty intense, and obviously all of Gregory Peck's scenes. I mean, he's just when you hear his voice, he is just infusing you with his idea that he wants to kill this whale. This whale is evil. But I just like the ocean scenes. I'm just going to go with the ocean scenes. Just watching the ship pull into a storm, the wind and the rain ripping its sails off, and then them just settling into a dead calm. The sun is just beating down on them, and they're just waiting for that wind to come. It's just so intense. And then when the whales are breaking the water and they're jumping to the longboats, it's quite magical.
It really is. Yeah, all of the miniatures, all of the whale effects.
Yeah.
Considering that they were all models, kind of makes you think how Spielberg went on to make Jaws. So many years later, but just seeing how this was done, in the ocean as well. So it's just a technical marvel in filmmaking for the time.
To learn all that, all the different techniques, running up and down the mast, pulling in the oars when they're stopping to kill the whales, getting the harpoons ready and making the shot. Months of training, probably.
Probably. So I really recommend that you experience Moby Dick. This version of the film it's compelling viewing. You will become transfixed with Gregory Peck's performance as Ahab. You will feel the motivation that he has for hunting the whale that took his leg and scarred his face. It's riveting viewing. All of the Shakespearean style dialogue. It's a fantastic film. I really recommend that you watch it. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Speak not to me of blasphemy, man. I'd strike the sun if it insulted me.